Assalamu alaikum. We'll see if this can get any. Right. So. Put this here. Alright. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa. Wa ala ibadihi alladhina irtada. Wa man bihudahum ihtada. Wa bi'athari ahli al-Madinah iqtafa. Wa ba'd. Fasalamullahi alaykum, folks. Can you all hear me okay? Drink with your right hand. No, I will drink with my left. Can you all hear me okay? Right, you get me? People, this is all going out for you, the Halloween special. That was a special dedication to you guys, okay? Amira, great to see you online. Right, some questions already. Let's see, I'm thinking today's session should be done like this actually. Right, like something like that. Like, so what are the questions? Yeah, Yusuf, assalamu alaikum. Shukran, Rayhan. I thought I'm going to take this out. This is actually, the Maliki traditional Moroccan, the silham that they have. So, see, don't think I don't have these clothings, people. You know that. This is like when I want to feel like Batman and just, or like the Count Dracula. Anyway, right, so, do I give zakat on my... Shukran. What is my opinion concerning the Mu'tazila? Good question. Peer Saab is here. Peer Zada Saab. Jimmy Darcy. Allahu Akbar. Right. Actually, let me begin with some questions. I'm going to come to that question, Adam Harding. I've got your question. What is my opinion concerning the Mu'tazila? Okay. How tall are you? What a question. Not too. I think about 5'9" at most. That's it, really. Where's your Halloween killer clown mask? This is it, people. This is it. Right. So, anyway, let's get down to business, people. Let's get down. Oh, dare I forget? This, folks. Just look at that. That's my walking cane. Alright, you gotta say that is super slick. Right, so now, do I even lift? I tried. Alright, now, how often do I go for a haircut? Probably every 2 weeks. I used to go every week, but then just get too busy, actually. Right. Now, okay, let's take some of these questions. I'm sure that cane's haram. Well, I don't think it's edible, Jimmy Pirzada Saab. I thought this cane was slick, actually. I saw this as a gadget. I thought, oh my god, that looks so slick. I have to get that. God, I tell you, it's so fun to be insane. What am I drinking? This is just actually one of those pink grapefruit squash, people. Just feeling thirsty, that's all. Anybody about to have a retarded moment? Right, this is my right hand, okay? It's the selfie camera, god damn it. How many times do I have to say that? Right, so, and Samsung it is, Safwan, Samsung it is. So, Maliki position on delaying prayers into Daruri time, like Asr time. Does this require Tawbah? No, if there's a reason. Watch my clip on Facebook about combining prayers for if you have some reason. Count Dracula, hell yeah. Shaitan drinks with the left hand. Right, so what's your thought on the North Dakota issue in America? You're going to have to elaborate a bit on that issue. I've been a bit preoccupied with my own stuff going on and UK stuff. You want a scholar? Oh, please, please, Muhammad Nabizada, can I be a scholar for just for today, please, please? I even bought my magic Mufti cane with me. Look. This is when something's haram, I show this cane. Right, so the one fist of beard is wajib. Abs just throwing in his little, yeah, it's true, but you see, this is also a fist of a 2-year-old. Now, unless you're going to add a condition that the fist has to be of a particular age. Now, and then you got to show that from the hadith. Restriction on man's length of hair. Ammar, watch my my YouTube clip on called The Cutting Edge Perspective Part 2. Part 1 is about the beard. Part 2 is about the hair. It's on YouTube. Right, we should do dhikr. Inshallah, Native American land issue. Hell yeah, the Native... Assalamu alaikum, Rudy. How you doing? All the way from KSA. Right, now... the Native American issue, I'm not an expert on things like that. Like most people, I know that they've just been robbed and really just not only betrayed, but tyrannically oppressed, really, the whole treatment. And then they've just been kind of, they're just left as these drunk people out there, and they're not, that's just a distraction, whilst the Americans have really usurped all of their lands. So whatever rights they can get, they deserve, absolutely. Is the tasbih and dua after Jummah considered a bid'ah? I think it would be considered, it goes back to the same discussion on bid'atul hasana. You see, you're being cross-examined here. You can't even say anything. There's 2,000 people pointing a finger saying you're not on haqq. Allahu Akbar. The good thing I don't rely on those 2,000 people. Right, brother, you're a funny guy. Shukran, shukran. I've seen we can longish beyond shoulders. Seen we can have it long though. I've seen we can have it long though. I've got no idea what you're talking about, Ammar. But it sounds quite, Well, how do I become a vampire? Allah. Imam Hassan of Gloucester. People, Imam Hassan doing some awesome work in Gloucester, some real ground, grassroots level work, helping the homeless, feeding people that are hungry, real true Islam embodied. Right, well, shukran, Abs, shukran. Please explain the hadith. We only have the 2 Eids as our festivals. I'm not sure what hadith we're talking about. What hadith are you talking about, Waqar? Is that the Moroccan cape thing, Gibran? Yes, it is. It's called the Silham. What's your view on student finance? I have explained before that my understanding of riba is that these things don't necessarily fit that bill. Okay. Are mermaids real? Well, isn't that an interesting question? Will you believe it that historically people had written, like in Kitab al-Hayawan, and in other books of creatures, they actually had included Insan al-Bahar, which is the human of the sea. So they had mermaids and then there was a discussion that could you eat them? And then there was a question about the mermaids, a little naughty one, about, well, if you take them out of the sea, what can you do with them? Honestly, these discussions are available in the books of fiqh. So, well, anyway, moving on. I don't know. Where's the killer clown mask, Maliki Sahib? Don't delete my comments. It is with sincerity. This is the best I can do, man. I've got my look. There you go. Is gold haram also for vampires? Allah, vampires have no need for gold. Allah. Can we eat food of people of the book? Does it have to be halal certified? Muslims can have the meat of the people of the book. But I mean, the question is that people have asked me, do I consider countries like the UK to be Christian countries? I don't. Okay. I consider these countries, although ironically the Queen is the head of the church and the head of state, but I mean, she's the monarch and she's the head of church, but the people generally in the UK are not, I mean, I would assume they're more agnostic. Allahu A'lam. Is forex trading halal? I'm still trying to learn a bit more about that, Shalim. I don't think I know enough about it, because I don't know. I don't know enough about it, that's all. 16 million household. No idea what you're talking about, but yeah, you just keep doing what you're doing. What do you think about the slandering by Ammar Nakshwani against Sahaba? I think it's absolutely pathetic, utterly disgusting. Any religion that teaches you hate and abuse is no religion at all. So, if for Ammar Nakshwani and other people like that, the other, what's his name, the Habib, anyway, right, if these kind of, you know, I'm sorry, but to me, they are nothing but just retarded Rafidis. People who, and I say that because how could you openly promote hatred towards such venerated figures of religion, even if you disagree with, like, you could disagree with another religion, and even if it is your own religion, Islam is not built, I mean, I hate to burst their bubble, but Islam is not built on the essential of the family of the Prophet and the politics around them and the history of what happened to them, whether that was good or bad or whatever, and our heart goes out to whatever tragedies occurred. But the thing is, Islam wasn't built on that. Islam was built on the concept of Tawheed and Risala. This is what this is what Islam was built upon. So for people to become obsessed over certain personalities within Islam, especially those who are extremely venerated by the outright majority, like 9 out of 10 Muslims in the world, highly venerate and respect these figures. For you to slander them, to kind of abuse them, to teach hatred about them, to curse the wives of the Prophet, to accuse that, to have no respect and to dishonor them by accusing them of being prostitutes and stuff like this. These people have no shame, and as far as I'm concerned, no faith would teach hatred like that. Okay, so I don't believe that these people have found God in their search. I don't know what it is that they've found, but I don't believe that God would teach people to disrespect and dishonor people like that. Imam Hassan, I want to become a bearded Dracula. Allah. Opinion on Shaykh Muhammad Al-Yaqoobi. What is this? Is this like some kind of sting operation going on? Hey, what's your opinion on Shaykh Muhammad Al-Yaqoobi? He's a very respectable Shaykh of our age. Somebody I'm hoping will reflect more and more the voice of reason with time to come. I believe he is kind of starting to discuss these kind of discussions and to promote the voice of reason. I hope, inshallah, he continues to do things like that. I find sometimes that people who go into, you see, it's with any group, when people become real kind of just caught into their groups, it's just a cult mentality. They're just a cult. Whether they and I'm not saying this about Shaykh Yaqoobi, I'm saying just in general, whether they're Salafi, whether they're Sufi, whether they're whatever. So in life, I believe it's it's important to try to always see through your biases. So even the same thing with a lot of Sufi kind of followers is that their sheikh will become the ultimate. And the problem can be sometimes when that sheikh isn't somebody who's resonating the voice of, he's not kind of echoing the voice of reason. But the good thing about Shaykh Yaqoobi, from what I'm seeing, and I haven't been up to date with a lot of his things, but from what I have seen, I like his kind of angle on promoting reason. And I listened to recently a refutation of his he attended a conference recently just in the Middle East, just over a week ago. And he did a refutation on an Egyptian philosopher, Hassan Hanafi, who has nothing to do with the Hanafi madhab. He's just called Hanafi, Dr. Hassan Hanafi. And I actually liked very much what Shaykh Yaqoobi said. So inshallah, big up. And I hope he does continue to promote the voice of reason, inshallah. The issue is big oil companies are invading the native lands to build pipelines that may contaminate water, destroying their Muslims. Should we join the protest? Yes, I mean, if that happens to be in your locality, in your vicinity, then Muslims should be at the forefront. I say this in a way that, you know, many of us sometimes slack due to our daily distractions, but if we can, we ought to be at the forefront in the fight against any injustice. Okay, we ought to be as passionate we ought to be as passionately opposed to injustices as we are to fellow Muslims who we disagree with. That's how we ought to be. I have work soon. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Abs. Right, are you implying that we don't have work? Is there anything specific you need to do when you buy a new house? Yeah, just hope you haven't been scammed and you haven't been ripped off and the whole thing. No, nothing. You can, inshallah, just be grateful to Allah. Who are trustworthy Maliki scholars in the Chicago area of the US? As-Sujud Al-Maliki. Right. I mean, I don't know, in the Chicago. Oh, right. Isn't Ustad Ubaidullah, who I just met up with last week, I'm sure he said he was based in Chicago. I believe also Dr. Umar Farooq Abdullah is also based in or around or close to, I think he's based in Chicago. See, I'm not sometimes too clued up on where the American scholars are based. I just that they occur to me. These are, you know, good people to inshallah stay in touch with. In America, you have got a certain number of Malikis, but I think they're more based around the Bay Area, California. It just sounds so cool, doesn't it, California? Right. So, is it okay to consider Buddha, Krishna, and Confucius as potential prophets? Allah. You see, I think there's a distinction in saying let's consider them to be prophets, as in we declare them as prophets. And I think there's a distinction between doing that and between saying, well, Allahu A'lam, maybe they were prophets in essence. So Krishna in the Shri Krishna ji of the Vedas. He was traditionally he was referred to Krishna, which means dark. I believe it meant dark, and he was dark. And in the old Vedas, he was referred to as a scholar. Okay, then I think I could be wrong, but by the time it reaches the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and things like this, I believe by that time he has been deified and he's become a god. But prior to that, I think in the old Vedas, he is considered as a scholar. Allahu A'lam. So you can see some kind of transition taking place. So it's not, maybe these people were prophets. Now, that's one thing to say that. The other is to say, no, I believe they were certainly prophets. I mean, I can't say that. I know Allah sent many prophets. He says, وَرُسُلًا لَمْ نَقْصُصْهُمْ عَلَيْكَ, and they were messengers we didn't even tell you about. So they may be from them. Abu Layth, go out and search for candies, even better than what you do now. Ooh, Nabizada Abu Layth. Alright, that's Mufti Abu Layth to you. Oh, count. Alright, you get that. Go out and search for candies. Look at the cheek of these people. When's the Dajjal coming? Do you think WWE? Do you think WWE is imminent, like the wrestling? Do I think World War III is imminent? No, I do not think World War III is imminent. I hope, inshallah, it's not imminent at all. And I hope we as a human civilization can rise above such catastrophic world wars. I mean, Sheikh Hamza Maqbool is Maliki and is in Chicago. Awesome, shukran. There you go, like that. Right, Khadija, shukran for that input. Right. Sheikh Hamza Maqbool, I've met him, he's come here, graced my house with his presence. Yeah, definitely somebody to, inshallah, benefit from and learn from. Someone asks about a sin which you have repented from. Do you expose the sin or lie? Which is the lesser of two evils? Right, so I don't know what the context to that is, Osama. I don't know, you know, like, you see, the thing is, sometimes you might tell people things to get it off your chest or to make amends or to rectify a situation. Like, so for example, somebody's blaming somebody else for something and you come along and say, you know what, I just want to say that I know you guys don't realize because I'm such a slick burglar or a thief, but that was actually me that stole that thing. Right, so, and you might save somebody from going through some difficulty, do you understand? So sometimes there's no harm in doing things like that. In fact, I think it may be the noble thing to do at sometimes. Sometimes it would be the worst possible thing you could do. Like if you've been up to some hanky-panky somewhere and then you decide to, I know, I want to get it off my chest. I'm going to go and confess to that person so-and-so. Now, these kind of things would just be catastrophic because they would just end bad in every single possible scenario. There is no good, you know, outcome to that. Merman, do you know Shaykh Khalid Yasin? What do you think about him? I don't know Shaykh Khalid Yasin. I've seen some of his, very few of his lectures, very few. I don't know really. I couldn't possibly comment. Hassan Gamble, alright. I've seen quite a few of your Facebook posts. How you doing? Alaikum salam. When is it possible to delay Salah? I believe delaying between the two combinatorial. Allah, do you like the words, people? Combinatorial. The two those two salahs that may be combined, like Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha. Delaying between these two, so delaying Dhuhr till Asr time, having some kind of a reason for it is fine. Ashhab, the legend of the Maliki madhab, said it could even be done for, as long as it wasn't a habit, it could be done for the slightest of needs, including if somebody had to go out, he has, you know, he's in a lecture, or he has to go out, or he has to do a certain type of shopping, or he has to do that. He did allow combining the prayers. He said as long as it didn't become a habit for the most simplest of excuses. So it was still an excuse, but it was very, it wasn't life-threatening or even devastating or shocking or even so paramount really. Shireen, wassalamu alaikum. Make dua, find a pious wife. Okay, need one from London. Okay, right, well, I'm not sure I can help you there, but yes, Allah. Are steroids halal if you're well, I don't think they're sting operation, Safar. This is a sting operation going on. Right, are steroids... steroids are more an issue of legality as opposed to an issue of hurma and tahleel. Allah, what am I saying there? What am I saying? I'm not going to comment anymore. Can Muslims eat kosher? Yes, they can. Brother, which wax do you use? Well, on my hair, I just pick it up from my local hairdressers. So this time I picked up a different one. I'm not sure what they're called actually. I just pick up these tubs. Ali El Turco. Alright, sounds quite Spanish. Hablas español. Right, forex trading is halal, trust me. Jimmy is saying it. That's Pirzada Saab giving it the... Is Halloween haram? I don't believe Halloween is haram. I believe it's Halaloween. It's halal. Who do you want to impress with the books behind you? I want to impress you, Zaka. I want to impress Zaka Ma. Please be impressed. Please be impressed. Please be impressed. Right, well... Right, so you have books behind you, I have books in front of me. Allahu Akbar, Narai Takbir. Those of you that remember the debate. Anyway, moving on. Alright, some people believe that you should not sleep in the front row of the masjid because jinn are there and they will cause you to... Is that true? Are there any hadith that say this? I think sleeping in the masjid is weird, and definitely you shouldn't sleep in the rows. I don't think because of a jinn. I think that's a bit silly. I think it's just because it doesn't befit a masjid. When you're KO'd, I mean, everybody sleeps differently. Some people could be snoring their heads off. Some people could be kind of rolling all over the place. Some people could... I mean, anything could happen. Think about it, huh? What could happen whilst you're sleeping? Do you really want to be found in that position in the front row? You could be waking up to some heavenly glory, and you don't want to be sharing that on the front row whilst everybody's got you on Snapchat. So keep that in mind. That's the real reason you don't want to be sleeping in the... if you do fall asleep, maybe at the side, at the back somewhere. Mufti Sahab, what do you say in regards to those who go off the view that Halloween is haram based on... Do you know... I was saying I'm glad you asked this question, because look, the thing is, it's... People have quoted this وَمَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ hadith for way too long, and they've gone unquestioned, which is unacceptable really, because the hadith, when you look at it, right, in its entirety, and I had somebody today, here's my Jan Layla going to sleep. Sorry. Soja. So the thing is, now, the thing is that, look, somebody quoted this today. They tried to write some refutation against me, saying, oh my God, Abu Layth, when they hate me, they will never use the word Mufti. Abu Layth said that Imam Sakhawi didn't even declare this hadith to be authentic. Oh, well, look at this. And he comes out with all these acrobatic kind of movements to show that Sakhawi said this was Hasan li ghayrihi. Well, Hasan li ghayrihi is still not Sahih. Okay, so when authentic is Sahih. So, I mean... Hello, but even then, I want to come back to, I seriously challenge these brothers, all of these people, all women, right? I've even called them brothers, and I don't do that. I don't like this rhetoric of brother and sister, but I'll even call them, I challenge all these Molvis and Molanas and these religious kind of control freaks to teach, to embrace the full hadith, that full hadith. Don't be deceptive. Don't use this snippet of the hadith. The hadith has 4 sentences to it. It's one incident, one hadith. Quote all of the hadith. God damn it. Let me tell you what the hadith is. Okay, the hadith says, the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith, if you accept this hadith to be sahih, he says that bu'ithtu bis-sayfi. حتى يعبد الله لا شريك له. I have been sent with a sword to butcher people, to kill them until Allah is worshipped and none other than Him, with no partners. وَجُعِلَ رِزْقِي تَحْتَ ظِلِّ رُمَحِي. And my rizq, my provision, my food has been written in the shade, under the shade, placed under the shade of my spear. Meaning that through warfare, we will tear through the grounds, waging war against the people, and through that we will take their possessions and become, that is our rizq. Right, that's the second sentence of the hadith. Then the third sentence, the Prophet allegedly said, وَكُتِبَ الذُّلُّ وَالصَّغَارُ عَلَى مَنْ خَالَفَ أَمْرِي. And any who dispute my affair, destined for them, what has been written for them is humiliation and subordination. That they will be subdued and they will be humiliated, any who dispute my affair, the Prophet allegedly said. And then he said, the final sentence, وَمَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. And if you resemble the people, then you are amongst them. Now quote, stand on your mimbars and read this hadith. Why the double standards? Why do you reject 3/4 of the hadith? You either refuse to read it, you refuse to teach it, you don't even accept it. You say, oh no, I don't accept the front part. I don't accept that the Prophet came to kill people until they... I don't accept that. That can't be literal. Oh, it must have been for a particular war incident. Oh, it must have been for this. Oh, the hadith ain't sahih. Oh, this... But when it comes to the final part, you want to superimpose that upon the entire Muslim global community. So I ask you, be consistent, people. Consistency. So that's my response to these zealots, okay, these religious... I do refer to some of these control freaks sometimes as religiotards, but not... I don't want to kind of be debasing here. So these zealots... That's my challenge to them. Embrace this hadith. Be consistent in your argument. Don't be deceptive. Don't be sly. That's my princess. Mwah. Right, Layla. Assalamu alaikum. ठीक है. अभी आप पापा अभी काम कर रहे हैं. आप जाओ. ठीक है. All right. So the thing is now. So I just wanted to highlight that, okay? So I want you guys to be aware of these kind of, when people get a bit crafty, like they don't, they're going to cover up 3/4 of a hadith and just show 1/4. Show it all. Be honest. Put your money where your mouth is. Okay. The idea about the imported meat issue in KSA, right? Hagahudi, I'm not sure. I mean, what the issue of the import is, that where they're saying it's halal, but we're not too sure or something. And what's up with the hadith that you say you can only revolt if the leader declares outright kuffar? You see, the problem with hadiths to do with revolt, I don't think the hadith speaks about revolt. I think the hadith is more speaking about, can you withdraw your allegiance? These hadith are talking about a different world, by the way. And the issue is that whenever the uprisings, insurgencies, the problem is it is a fitna, isn't it? But I mean, sometimes freedom is also something worth fighting for. Not sometimes, it's always worth fighting for. The issue is that it's the poor victims who suffer in the middle. May Allah make things easy for all our human brethren out there, our human family in places like Syria, in places like Yemen, in places like Iraq, Afghanistan, in all of these places, Burma, where they continue to suffer, really. But especially in the former places where I've mentioned, where the people are kind of revolting and there's a revolution, but it's come at, I mean, it hasn't been successful yet, but it's come at such a price. May Allah make things easy for them. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam, Sarraj. No intention to get you into controversy. What is your stance on marijuana? Recreational, medicinal. Well, I think if it's not an issue with the law, I don't think there's too much of an issue from an Islamic perspective. I don't think things like that are necessarily... You see, the difference is, I don't think it's seen necessarily as a good thing. Obviously, it's not seen as a good thing. But I mean, it's not... I don't know if I could say is haram from an Islamic basis. I think there's plenty of medicinal aspects to it too. I do not personally smoke at all, people. I don't even smoke cigarettes, okay? Just for... People think sometimes, you know, when I've said things like this, it must be because I smoke. I don't, actually. Some reason I give off this impression that I tell you, my impression is just much more raving than I actually am. That's all it is. I'm not actually into... When I was about 15 years old, I actually forced myself. I really tried hard to smoke, right, just to kind of fit in. But for some reason, Allah be praised, right, that I could never kind of adjust to the taste. I just hated the taste of cigarettes. I couldn't bring myself to doing it, so I just gave up. Alhamdulillah. Many years later, I'm so grateful for that divine intervention. Do you think Islam offers an ideological alternative to capitalism? See, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure. You see, I don't think these, like capitalism per se, this belief of capital, I don't think that necessarily contradicts with Islam, but it depends. The greed is obviously forbidden. Greed, tyranny, oppression, these kind of things, trying to rob people, extortion, these things are what is forbidden in Islam. Okay, I don't think wanting to have money, wanting to chase after money. You see, it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day, actually, people. Here, check this out. I was thinking about this. I was thinking that it's amazing how Muslims in our time have adopted certain am I high off the grapefruit? I certainly am, I'm telling you. I realize, you know, I think my general temperament is kind of wrongly configured to a very, like a high status. Like I'm buzzing. I think I'm like that a lot of the times, you know, I don't know. Oh, well, anyway, coming back to the discourse. Right, the thing is, I was thinking, so in the West, one of the not fallacies, but one of the mistakes which has collectively been undertaken by Muslims is we've bought into the Western political rhetoric and paradigm when looking at Islam. So we've taken a look at things like liberalism and conservatism as this is the lens to view things through. That totally does not fit Islam. It does, you know, this liberalism and conservatism, it does not make any sense from a true Islamic perspective, because Islam would be the embodiment of both of these things. It doesn't have a but for some reason, a lot of the Muslims seem to, although even those who are so anti-West in everything, seem to have embodied this. And I was really thinking hard that why would they embrace this? So when you look historically, so people say, oh my God, that's a liberal view. Oh my God, that's a conservative view. Okay, so what were these 100 years ago? Or let's look back in our history. What was the word for these in Arabic? They don't even have a word for these things. They just translate them as al-liberali or liberal or al-yasari on the left. These are just very modern translations. These don't exist historically. When we look back, how would we interpret people like, if we say, well, liberalism is breaking away from tradition. So would you say Imam Abu Hanifa was a liberal because he broke away massively from a huge sense of tradition? Would you say Ibn Hazm or Imam Shawkani, somebody who broke away definitely from tradition? Ibn Taymiyyah broke away from tradition. Would you call him a liberal? Now, the question is, you wouldn't. Would you call Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu a liberal? You couldn't impose. You see, when you look to the past, you realize this rhetoric makes no sense. So when you look to the future, like to the present, why are we superimposing them on Islam? It's a huge fallacy, and I believe it's the same way if we started to view things like capitalism and communism. So in the last century, you had a lot of ulama condemn communism. You had loads, and they wrote about it and everything. But I ask you that I wonder that how different would have that been if the West happened to be communist, and the West, the allies who had allied up with a lot of Muslim countries. What if they were communist, or what if Russia and that part of the world happened to have allied themselves with the Muslims? Would have they then been saying the same thing about capitalism? Because Islam, in essence, is neither, in my understanding, neither capitalist nor communist. It has an amalgamation of both. It's not this view of looking at the world doesn't fit Islam. In the same way, Islam is neither liberal nor conservative. It has a tradition, but it's always speaking about engaging your own time with your own environment, with the tools that you have from the tradition. So it's simultaneously always both. That's my... Sorry for getting a bit carried away there. Your view on what Muslims should do to tackle Islamophobia in the UK. I think many Muslims are doing huge things, and may Allah reward them. I'm on certain groups, actually, WhatsApp. I'm on a particular WhatsApp group called Tackling Islamophobia, and I have to say that the people on there are very active, and there's always things being done. There's protests, there's at a policy level, there's things being done, there's legal advice always being offered, there's things like legal action being taken, there's accountability of journalism occurring. There's, alhamdulillah, obviously Islamophobia is on the rise, but I do think some people are doing some great work. Sometimes I think what we can do as well to tackle Islamophobia is we got to cut out and cut down and hold back on our pathetic, on our retarded behavior sometimes. And I don't mean those kind of people that I just spoke about, stuff. They're doing great work. I mean, just as zealous Muslims, we get so carried away, we make Islam look bad. Can women go to the cemetery alone to make dua? Yes, of course they can, Shahreen. They can go to... why do some ahadith give the vibe that Allah will forgive the biggest of sins, whereas others Allah will punish? See, that's the interesting thing. You're right, there is a distinction. Some verses of the Quran as well, actually. In my understanding, I've always believed that when, in these hadith where Allah says, if you do this, He'll forgive you. If you do this, He'll forgive you. I personally believe those things to be mutlaq, like He will forgive you. People say generally, He'll forgive you, but He won't forgive the major sins, but He won't forgive the... I don't personally, I believe that in those things, when Allah says He'll forgive, He will forgive. Okay. So that's my kind of personal... I wanted to, just before those of you who haven't read my article on Halloween or Halaloween, it's on my notes in Facebook. I just wanted to say as well that, look, that I think my issue was not that we should go out, and I think some people may have misunderstood me. My issue was not we should go out trick-or-treating, or we should go out partying, or buying stuff, or doing things like this, or we should condone, kind of like messed up behavior. broken arrow and you don't have a sword prayer. Allah, Julio, inshallah, inshallah. Right, so the thing is, my issue wasn't that. People say, oh my God, people party on Halloween and there's fornication and there's this and there's that. And how can you... You see, first of all, stop mixing up the issue, okay? My point was not we should... I personally think Halloween is a bit dumb. That's my personal... I mean, I have no issue with people doing it, especially at a young age. I think they enjoy it. It's fun in schools and stuff like that. But I mean, beyond that, I don't see much point to it apart from just people wasting a bit of time and having some presumed fun. Now, my point was, since when did this become an issue of religion? See, I don't personally, I personally accept it could be it's a waste of time, or it could, you know, we shouldn't buy into all this commercialized aspect and all of these things. But since when did this become an issue of religion? Why do we superimpose Islam on everything? We impose it on everything. You know, we want, we can't even, like, everything has to be Islamic. Oh my God, my mug is un-Islamic, it resembles it's a pass. But the point is, like, everything is like, we've become so artificial in this kind of synthetic Islam that we have. Halloween, oh my God, this is a religion of paganism. I heard somebody say, oh, people may start worshipping the devil. I thought, are you for real? People might start worshipping the devil. I mean, are you seriously for real? Is this the level of intelligence that we have amongst this, you know, amongst the learned people of this ummah? That people might start, I mean, are you for goddamn real? How on earth are people going to start worshipping the devil? I mean, what the hell is wrong with you? Goddamn. So, that is what bothered me. I shared an example, one of the Rajabiyah, and I wanted to share this with you, that the Rajabiyah was, you see, people, before Islam came, when the month of Rajab would come, they used to call it the Atira. They would sacrifice an animal with a particular ritual. They wouldn't feed on it and stuff like this. They would take this young camel or a sheep, whatever, sacrifice it to their pagan gods, who would then bless their wealth for that coming year. Now, what happened is the belief around this started to disappear, but the custom remained. So when Islam came, the Prophet was asked, what shall we do about Atira, this Rajabiyah? And he said, look, if you want to do it, if you want to sacrifice it, do it. If you don't, don't. Man sha'attar wa man sha'lam yu'attar. Now that's the hadith. An even better example, and I wanted to quote this, was the aqiqah. And I say this because, look, don't buy into, it's very clear. It's very clear that the aqiqah was nothing to do with the Abrahamic faith or any. Don't buy into any of this nonsense that people are saying. It's very clear in the books of hadith. Aisha radiallahu anha explains it. Buraidah explains it. The Sahaba explain it. Imam Abu Hanifa was, all these people very clear. This was an act of jahiliyyah, of pagan, of Arab paganism. They believed that when a baby was born, that this baby would be impacted by evil spirits and demons who would cause the baby to have an infantile death. So the baby would die whilst it's still young. The only way to prevent that and save that was to make an offering to the gods as the baby was born. They would then get this offering. They would do, if it was a boy, because they loved boys more, they would sacrifice 2 sheep. And if it was a girl, they would sacrifice 1. And they would kill the animal, sacrifice it to the pagan gods, and then they would get the blood of the animal and they would dip some cloth in it and then rub that, smear that over the forehead of the child. and with this they would ward off the evil spirits. Okay, now Islam comes along and these beliefs seem to have dissipated over time, but the practice remains. So people are still sacrificing an animal. They know what the beliefs were about because they speak about them. Buraidah mentions it in a hadith. Aisha mentions it in a hadith. That, they used to do this because they believed in the evil spirit. They knew what it was about, but people stopped believing in them as much, but they carried out the practice still. And they used to get the blood, to smear the forehead of the child with it. Now along comes Islam, and when they asked the Prophet, what should we do about this? And the Prophet said that, Yasin al-Fasi, that's got to be done with the silham. Now the thing is, they asked the Prophet, what should we do? And the Prophet said, there's no problem with it. He himself did it for Hassan and Hussein. And he said, instead of blood, he said, don't smear it with blood. I mean, how paganistic is that? Smearing a child's forehead with blood. So the Prophet said, don't do that. I tell you what, use colour instead. So they used to use saffron. Now, and the Arabs were closer. Their Islam was new. They were closer to paganism than we are to this 2,000-year-old ritual of worshipping, or not worshipping, reaching out to the ghosts and the monsters that the Celtic people used to believe in, right? Or whoever it was that initially celebrated Halloween. Now, the Arabs were very close because they were the first Muslim community. So if there was a fear of them falling into that worship again, it was greater then. Yet the Prophet said there's no problem with this. Yes, some madhabs, like Imam Shafi'i, considered it to be a sunnah. Imam Malik did not. Neither did Imam Abu Hanifa. Imam Malik said there may be some reward in it because you give out meat to people and you feed, and there's some goodness in that. But he then denied any discrimination between the genders. Imam Malik refused to accept that. He said it's the same for a boy and a girl. Imam Abu Hanifa said there is zero reward in this action. If you do it, it's like, should I drink grapefruit juice today? Or should I drink lemonade today? Or what? It's just mubah, it's just permissible, it's not haram. But none of them said it was haram, which is interesting. So my point was, if you can get a pagan practice like that, which involves smearing the head of a child with blood and offerings to pagan gods, and because it loses its belief, and it's just a custom, a community custom with some festivity, and Islam, the Prophet says, well, hey, the Prophet says there's no problem with this. He partakes in it. Then what is the issue? That was my point in saying, why are we making such a big deal about things like Halloween and so on? And then people say, well, where do you draw the line? What do you mean, where do you draw the line? What kind of a pathetic question is that? I'm talking about Halloween. People say, oh, well, what about Christmas? I've answered Christmas previously, and I've said the same thing. That, look, I do not believe when you are speaking to non-Muslims, yes, Muslims amongst themselves, because Christmas still has a very strong Christian element to it. We do not celebrate the Christian festivals as a religious festival. We do not celebrate Christmas as Muslims. But to respond to non-Muslims with Merry Christmas is permissible. I'm not alone. Several ulama around the world have said that, including people like Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayya, including people like Yusuf Qardawi, and many other ulama all around the world have said that. Okay, that there's no harm in responding to non-Muslims with Merry Christmas to you too. So, I mean, I don't know what the big... And sticking up a Christmas tree I don't personally see as haram, right? I don't see... I mean, it's a kind of superimposed symbol upon Christianity. It's not a symbol of Christianity per se. It was actually to do with the Roman Empire that's kind of merged it in and amalgamated the symbol. And many Muslims do that. Many Muslims, their kids kind of get all excited with the Christmas tree and they see other people doing it and they want to do it. I don't personally do it, but I don't see... When we were kids, young kids, when we were being, and I say young, when we were about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8. I remember we did used to have a Christmas tree. When I get some Kuffar fatawa now. But I grew up like just normal. I didn't grow up necessarily in a religious household, right? But the thing is, we never ever thought, oh my God, we're now Christians. We never thought that. You know, like my parents never thought, oh my God, okay, they can have a Christmas tree because everybody's got a Christmas tree and they're feeling a bit, you know, they want to kind of do. They never thought, oh my God, they're going to become Christians now. And I just find this, we have to superimpose Islam on everything, like everything. And we just want to control people. Like I have a view and I want to control the whole damn world with it. You know, it's like, get over it, man. Like, you have no, you know, one serious issue we have, and I'm sorry to go on about this as a rant, but as Muslims, is that we feel we have a right on other people. We don't. You know, it's like people could be on a different continent to you. They could be from a different race to you. They could speak a different language to you, eat different food, have a different upbringing, and the only thing they share with you is a religion, and you all of a sudden feel you have a right to tell them off. Like, who the hell are you? Like, why do you have this right to tell people off? And you don't. The other person, they're a person. And this only happens in the Muslim community. You don't see Christians doing that. You don't see, oh, but akhi, we have akhi. Amar bil ma'roof wa nahy anil munkar. I mean, what the hell is wrong with people? Amar bil ma'roof. Right, or command the good. Who the hell sent you to command the good? God damn it. What do you even know about the good? Define the good to me that you're going to command. I mean, where do you even learn what's good? And I thought there was the divine commandment theory, so I thought there was no good. No such thing as good except what God has commanded. We just call that good. So in that case, what has God commanded? Do you even know the Sharia? Do you even know fiqh? Do you even know the differences of opinion? So, God, let's see. What is the most critical problems? I think there's loads really. Issues, problems that Muslims face. I think ethics is an issue as well. Handling ethics, identity. I think this, I don't know, there are huge, our influences, our centre of influences. Right now in the UK as an example, Muslims, we seem to only take as a centre of influence for Islam either the Indo-Pak world or Saudi Arabia. We need an immense power a shift here, a paradigm shift, because those two places, as you know, I'm sure they've got many great things there, but they've got many crazy things there as well. And we are just very different. Right, okay. I agree with you, but I would call it a distinct system based on distinct fundamentals rather than amalgamation. No, yes, absolutely. Tariq Khan, I'm not saying that Islam is an amalgamation, that it's built upon capitalism and communism. What I meant was it has, you see, like you're saying, it's distinct, but it has features of both. That's what I meant. Only can I culture... Oh, damn, I missed the question. Assalamu alaikum from Italy. Alright, about the tattoo, because many people say it's haram. Translation. X-ray, tango, tangent. No idea, Julio, what you're saying. Thanks for your 1 second reply, which I waited 25 minutes for. Look at that, Shireen. Shukran for your patience. Barakallahu feek. Alright, no fun, just entertainment by tangent. Became an issue of religion when? Is it haram? I used to take my kids out when they were kids. I don't think, Fadwa, if you're talking about the Halloween things, I don't think it's haram at all. Read my article, my note, Halloween or Halaloween. Alright, and I came up with that, okay? So in case anybody tries to... other people may have come up with it as well, but I didn't copy anybody, just for the record. You have books right behind you. Why? Why you have the books right behind you? Why? Abdul Salam, but why? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? No entiendo, no entiendo. What do you want me to do? Put them all in front of me? I mean, what's the... Can we wish Happy Diwali? Ah, look at that. You guys trying to do some sting operations. Look, these kind of things, I think generally Muslims, if they live around Hindus and like in India and stuff like this, they will, like if you have neighbors and stuff like that, people say Happy Diwali to you. I don't really see personally such a big deal in stuff like this. These are just human greetings. You don't become a kafir. But we have to stop being so insecure. I wouldn't go around looking for people to say, hey, Happy Diwali to you. But if somebody was celebrating Diwali that I knew all my life as a neighbor, and you know, and they said, and I said, you know, Happy Diwali to you. I mean, what's the big deal, people? What, seriously, is this what Islam has been reduced? Oh my God, you uttered the word Happy Diwali. You have become a kafir. You will forever rot and burn and rot and burn in hell. God damn, that's not the understanding of Islam I have. Islam, I'm creasing right here. I had Assalamu alaikum. Is it haram? Are you scared of your God? Shall he slaughter for fun, enjoyed in your trust? No idea, Julio, what you're saying. Are you scared of my God? Am I scared of my God? Got no idea, no idea. Of course, I mean, if you mean by that, do I believe Allah is all powerful? Of course I do. Shukran for checking in on my aqidah there. Thanks. Right, let's move on. Let's get some questions. Let's move beyond the so many questions here. Guys, we're gonna wrap it up as well. Let's take the last few questions and we'll wrap it up. When Sunnis do anything, all the Wahhabis shout, imitating the Kuffar, imitating the Kuffar. I swear, this imitating the Kuffar thing, God, it annoys me so much when people just go on about that. And I've answered that now. That please quote the full Hadith. Thank you so much. Oh, there's a question there about tattoos. The thing is, look, with tattoos, there is I think there's some difference of opinion. It's not much. I've heard that there's some, I think, within the Maliki madhab, I think Zannati, and I think even Qarafi slightly, and where they said they felt it may have been makruh and not haram. But I think in general the ulama didn't recognize it as, and they felt it was haram. But the thing is, tattoos, I don't know, that's a tricky one. I think it's a lengthy one, which we haven't really got too much time for right now. But I think in general, there was an interesting, some interesting points made about why tattoos traditionally were actually used. That tattoos today are for kind of like, I mean, actually even today they're kind of used as a kind of affiliation, but they're used for things like, but generally for kind of like an adornment, like beauty. So people want to kind of, or to mark themselves in a particular way. How traditionally tattoos were used to brand cattle and slaves. This was one point which was interesting. And that nobody is a slave except to Allah. So there was this understanding. Although slavery, did exist, and in mind, the way I've explained this before is Islam did set out through trajectory hermeneutics to rule this out. But anyway, another thing that tattoos were used for was to, one, it was to brand people. Two, it was used to kind of mutate and disfigure people. And it was done in a, or you belong to this set of people and now you must be known as these people because you carry their mark. See, so tattoos weren't the way they're perceived today. The question then is that how, okay, will that have changed now that it's become an issue of beauty? I I don't know, you see, and historically, because it wasn't like this, none of the ulama fought too hard about it. One thing we know is several tribes historically, like certain Berber tribes and so on, for centuries and centuries always had tattoos. The ulama didn't actually go so mad about them and didn't really condemn them or didn't really do anything, just recognized it as their way, that it was this particular tribe, and they just, so it opened a lot of questions. Some Malikiya saw that it was makruh and not haram, but the majority of the people didn't feel a need to discuss it otherwise, and therefore they left it as haram. Who is this guy, Noman Ali? Whoa, 4 question marks. Whoa, who's this guy? Who the hell are you? Nah, just kidding. Don't worry about it, man. I got no idea who I am either. Are you electrocutated? Are you electrocutated? Listen up. Right, none of them are allowed. Let's take right, Dawa Man is gonna alright, well, see, that's what happens when kids become like semi-scholars. Opinion. Why is a building called a building when it is already built? Allahu Akbar. It's a good question. It's the same thing, Uthman. It's what they call where you name something by the thing that's either been done to it or is being done to it, okay? Just as they call a prayer mat in Arabic a sajjada as something which is constantly bowing in prostration, although it's not actually doing it, but that's what is happening on it. Alright, it's from the Aqsam al-Majaz. Take a look in your books of Balagha. That's rhetoric. Can we say Happy Christmas? I've answered that. What do you think about intense awareness of jinn and exorcisms? Lavon, I've answered this before. I don't personally believe in jinn possessions. I do believe that the jinn exist. There isn't a single sahih or sarih hadith that says that jinn can possess people. These are cultural kind of myths that have emerged. And they've kind of become Islamicized, and over the era, over the centuries, I mean, Muslim scholars did their best to interpret the phenomena that they witnessed, and some of it was like multiple personality disorders, and there's no way, they had no other way of interpreting it, and they thought, well, maybe a person is possessed. Today we ought to know better, but the thing is, we still don't. When you look at the evidence from the Quran, it contradicts the belief of possession, because the shaitan, who is the most powerful of the demons, himself says on the Day of Judgment that وَلَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرِ, and shaitan will rise, he will say that مَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُم مِّن سُلْطَانٍ, I had no authority over you. إِنَّمَا دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي, I called you and you responded. I had no authority, no power over you. This is even Iblis, the strongest. He, as in the hadith it says, رَدَّ كَيْدَهُ إِلَى وَسْوَسَةِ, all he can do is simply insinuate. If you believe that a jinn can come in you and make you move a hand, that is a physical action. He can make you go ill, and he can actually cause death. He can make you go ill and die. That is immense power. And then surely there must be some of them that are a bit more intelligent. The greatest trick the devil ever did was made you think he didn't exist. Alright, you know you've been watching The Usual Suspects. The thing is now, so there must be some devils who are more intelligent than that. Therefore, the question asked is, how do you know that some jinns haven't possessed people, but haven't let them know, haven't let them become aware that they are possessed, and therefore they're thinking they're normal, and there's an illusory control, so they're making the humans think they're actually in control. So how do you know any crime that is being conducted isn't actually the jinn then? How do you know? Also, all of these people who believe in jinn possession say that jinn, if they can possess a human being, which is a very dynamic and complicated organism, they all say, well, jinn, they say, can يتشكل بأي شكل, anything, especially an inanimate object. So how do you not know that this book, for example, that I'm going to, let's say I'm going to read a book here, that isn't actually a jinn pretending to be a page? How do you know that this Facebook live feed isn't a jinn pretending to be, or your Facebook account isn't a jinn's account? Or let's say if you were a jinn, and what's your greatest goal? To misguide and mislead people. Now the best way to do that would be to pretend to be a book. I mean, it's a bit retarded to just go into a person, spend all your life in the person, and make him every now and then just move a hand. I mean, what the hell? And make him become ill and make him get a disease and die. I mean, that's a bit pathetic as a jinn, you know, like, hey, what's your life's aim? I want to pretend to be hepatitis in an individual. I want to embody him and then just make him repetitively twitch every 5 minutes. That's my life's aim. I mean, that's a bit of that's a jinn with low aspirations right there. What the jinn ought to do is be, if you were a jinn, you would become a book or a page in a book that says jinn have a lot of powers and they can possess people. So that way, people would fear you. Exactly. So this argument gets pathetic, doesn't it? So I ask you, bring me one hadith that is sarih and sahih. It can have no criticism, zero criticism on its chain. And it must be absolutely authentic, and it must say possession explicitly. Right? It doesn't. It doesn't exist, people. And when you look at the verses of the Quran, they contradict it. The verses of the Quran say that the shaitan don't have power. They don't have power beyond whispering. So why do we... But anyway, I've answered this before, so I hope that sheds some light. Is it permissible to draw faces? Of course it's permissible to draw faces. As the hadith says in Sahih Muslim, إِلَّا رَقْمًا فِي ثَوْبٍ, except a drawing. Right? The thing is that these things are not... They're not really kind of issues or anything like that, okay? So I know some people get a bit carried away on all of this, statues and so on, but where the Prophet ﷺ said that, he was talking about the early community of Muslims who were still close to worshipping idols and things like that, and therefore he prohibited and he kind of told off those people who create idols. Okay, people, with that, I think let's call it a day, man. Let's call it a day. About idols, I did also read somewhere that Imam Qarafi, the legend from the 8th century of Egypt, Qahira, the Maliki Don and Faqih and major Usuli, that he himself was very fond of sculptures, and he himself used to make his own sculptures. Check that out, huh? Malikis have always been cool. People, I'm gonna leave you with that, inshallah. Have an awesome, inshallah, week. Till next week. Do look up any of these issues. If you have any questions, you can shoot them up to me, inshallah. If you're on Snapchat, you can add me. That's Malm 2014, MALM 2014, Malm 2014. You can add me on Snap. Shoot me your questions there. Otherwise, on Facebook, inshallah. Other than that, people, remember humanity as a whole and moi, inshallah, in your kind du'as. Until next week, inshallah. Take care of yourselves. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.